Welcome to this tutorial on some movements that you can take at the end of a long day. Maybe you've done a lot of sitting at your desk during the day. Maybe you've had a long commute, so you had a lot of driving or sitting on some form of transportation. Maybe you just, the body just needs a little bit of very gentle movement to work out some kinks before you turn in for the night. So here's what I would like to offer you. It only takes a few minutes. We'll start with some very mindful, intentional shoulder circles. We'll think about the shoulders coming up towards the ears. Shoulder blades on your back are going to come towards one another. We're going to keep them towards one another as we lower the shoulders down. And then we're going to spread those shoulder blades away from each other, kind of arching the back. So we'll do that a few times. Up, together, down, apart. Really take your time. And I imagine you can sense that this movement in particular, drawing those shoulder blades towards one another, is a nice counter movement to that hunching over a phone, computer, steering wheel, etc. during the day. Shoulder blades together, let the shoulders lower down, and then spread those shoulder blades apart. In addition to just feeling good after all of that counter movement, this can actually lead to better shoulder stability over time. Okay, after that, we'll come and lie down on our side. This movement is called open books or airplane or alligator movements. Have some support for your head, a pillow, a blanket, whatever suits you. Whatever you like to do with your legs is fine. I usually bend mine. Your two arms are out long in front of you. And we're going to open our books. So maybe it's as you breathe in, you open that arm out and then twist as far as is comfortable for your body. And then slowly lower back down. You can do this any number of times. It feels good for you. If you let your gaze follow that top arm that's moving, sometimes that'll nudge you into a little bit more of a twist. But just be mindful of what feels best for you. Some folks notice that when they start to come into this twist, they start to roll onto their backs and that it's hard to stay on their side. So if that's the case, you might place something behind you, behind your low back, a couple of books or something just to give you that feedback that says, whoa, you know what? Stay on my side here. All right, again, do that any number of times. The movement here is primarily in the mid-back, so the part of your spine that attaches to your rib cage. And you'll lie on your other side and do the same thing. And to keep it yoga, I do recommend that you connect to your breath as you take these movements. I like to breathe in and open that top arm out, and then breathe out and lower the arm down. I also like to notice where I'm feeling sensation. It might be for you in your shoulder. It could be in your hip, this top hip. Or maybe you're just feeling that twist, primarily in the mid-back. So do that any number of times that feels good for you. All right, and then you can flip over onto your back. We're going to take a flowing bridge, and this is really nice after a lot of sitting during the day. When we sit, we are in this position a lot, so our hip flexors are like this. So what we're going to do is stretch those hip flexors and give them a chance to kind of get their own little stretch here. So you have to decide what's most comfortable for your feet. I usually say, about hip width distance apart with your feet on the mat, knees bent. The upper body is nice and relaxed and nice and still. And the first time you do this, I always like to notice how my low back feels. So I press into my feet and I lift my hips, lift my pelvis off the mat, and I notice, how does my low back feel here? If it feels pretty good, are very good when I do this, then my feet are in just the right spot. If it feels a little pinchy or just not quite right, experiment with how far apart your feet are or how far away your feet are from your body. So always make sure you do that first. There's no sense in lifting up and lowering if it's not feeling good for your back. And again, most of the work is pressing into your feet to help you lift the hips up. I would recommend flowing, meaning lifting up and lowering down, connecting to either an inhale or an exhale. Some folks like to breathe in and lift the hips up, breathe out and lower down. Other folks like to take a breath in, and on the exhale, lift up, breathe in, breathe out. So see what feels best, what makes the most sense to your body. And then if you want a little bit of shoulder movement, you could add on as the hips lift up. Maybe the arms come up as the hips lower down. Maybe the arms lower down. You do that a few times, and then if you are really enjoying that stretch, right about here, you could lift up. And for this, I would keep the arms by the sides and press into those feet and breathe here. Any number of times that feels good for you. Really feeling that stretch for the hip flexors. So something to think about too if that feels good. To make this a very supportive pose that you can really hang out in for 2, 3, 4 minutes, you might fold up a blanket. Come into your bridge position here. Lift up and place that folded blanket or a book or a plastic food container, but one that's sturdy, and put that under your hips so that your lowest part of your back, not your tailbone or your sacrum, but just the low spine where you have that curve, we want that hanging off. And you could hang out here. So that often feels good at the end of a long day of sitting. All right, then we want to give our hips a little bit of attention here. So staying on the back, we'll take a reclined pigeon. Crossing one ankle over the other thigh, and notice that outer hip. So for me, it's my right leg. I'm noticing my right hip, seeing how that feels, and deciding whether or not I want more sensation here. I have a whole nother video that I'll try to link to here on this pose, so you can refer to that if you'd like more specifics on how to take this pose. So you might linger here 10, 15 breaths, something like that. And after that whatever amount of time feels good, you can add a little stretch for your IT, your iliotibial band, which runs along the outer thigh. And I'm going to be influencing this one on my right side here by lowering the top foot that's crossed down towards the ground and floating back up. I also have a video about this pose. So this IT band stretch can feel really good. Slowly flowing back and forth. I'm going a little faster than I probably normally would for the sake of this video. Uncross, you would do side 2, so you would cross the other leg, hang out here in reclined pigeon, do that IT band stretch. And then I would wrap up with a little more movement for the hips, taking the feet nice and wide. You don't have to have a mat for this. And let your knees drift from side to side. This is a little bit of a twist and a little bit of hip rotation. So moving back and forth like that. You can come to stillness. You can get up. You can go brush your teeth and then head to bed, or maybe you settle in for a movie for the evening. Anything that would feel good for you. So I hope you'll give this a try. And if you have any questions at all about this, please reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel here, or text or email me, and I would be glad to give you more information. So enjoy this movement. Good night.